Monique did not have to die. I didn't have to throw her out like she was garbage either. My baby was so precious to me. To all of us, she was so valuable. How dare they?
The winter sun cast long shadows across the snow-covered driveway as Monique Baugh pulled up to the Maple Grove property. Her breath formed small clouds in the December air as she stepped out of her car, professional portfolio in hand. The 28-year-old real estate agent checked her appearance in the car window's reflection, straightening her coat before heading toward the vacant home. It was New Year's Eve, 2019. Most people were preparing for celebrations, but Monique was squeezing in one last showing. The client had been insistent about seeing the property today. Monique texted her office her location, then walked confidently toward the empty house. Monique never returned from that house showing. Hours later, Minneapolis police responded to gunshots detected by ShotSpotter technology in a North Minneapolis alley. There, they discovered Monique's body, hands bound with duct tape, 3 gunshot wounds marking her final moments. The young mother of 2 had been kidnapped, transported in a U-Haul truck, and executed in cold blood. Even more horrifying, while Monique was being abducted, the perpetrators used her house keys to enter her home, where they shot her boyfriend multiple times in front of their daughters, aged 1 and 3. The fake house showing wasn't random. It was an elaborate trap, meticulously planned by multiple conspirators, including a former Hennepin County probation officer. What began as a routine professional appointment transformed into the final chapter of Monique's life, leaving her family shattered and a community searching for answers about how such calculated violence could unfold on the last day of the year. Welcome to Explosive True Crime Stories, where we examine real cases that shake communities to their core. Today's episode goes beyond simply recounting Monique Baugh's tragic murder. We'll analyze the vulnerabilities that made this crime possible and explore crucial safety measures that might have prevented it. As we follow this case from the fake house, showing to the courtroom drama that continues today, we'll highlight the warning signs professionals in similar positions should recognize. Our goal isn't just to inform, but to equip you with knowledge that could potentially save lives in situations where trust is exploited and danger disguised as opportunity. If you've ever met someone online, arranged a meeting with a stranger, or found yourself alone in an unfamiliar location, this story directly impacts your safety. Stay with me through this entire episode. The details you learn today could protect you or someone you love tomorrow. Your vigilance matters more than you know. Throughout this episode, we'll answer critical questions. How did multiple conspirators coordinate this elaborate trap for Monique? What was the true motive behind targeting a successful real estate agent and mother? How did the legal system ultimately respond to this crime? And why were some convictions overturned years later? Most importantly, what specific warning signs were missed, and what safety protocols could have saved Monique's life? By examining these questions, we'll reveal how everyday professionals can protect themselves from similar dangers and how families can recognize when loved ones might be at risk in their professional lives. Before Monique Baugh became a headline, she was the radiant center of a loving family. Known for her infectious energy and confident demeanor, Monique built deep connections with those around her. Her relationship with her cousin Cheryl Sinkfield was particularly special. The two were inseparable, nicknaming themselves Thelma and Louise after the iconic film duo. Their bond transcended typical family relationships, evolving into a sisterhood that sustained them both through life's challenges. At the heart of Monique's support system was her mother, Wanda Williams Baugh. Their mother-daughter relationship provided Monique with a foundation of strength and resilience that she carried into her adult life. Wanda would later become the fierce voice demanding justice when her daughter could no longer speak for herself, channeling her grief into determined advocacy. Family gatherings were filled with Monique's laughter and warmth. She approached life with enthusiasm that drew people toward her, creating memories that would later become precious treasures for those left behind. Her family described her as someone who lived fully in each moment, bringing light into every room she entered. This vibrant presence made her absence all the more devastating when it was violently torn from them on that fateful New Year's Eve in 2019. Monique built an impressive career at Chris Lindahl Real Estate, where colleagues consistently praised her dedication and client-centered approach. She wasn't just selling properties. She was helping families find homes where memories would be made. Her professional reputation grew quickly as clients responded to her authentic communication style and thorough market knowledge. Real estate wasn't merely a job for Monique. It represented financial independence and the ability to provide for her daughters. She embraced the challenges of the competitive market, working diligently to establish herself in an industry where success depends on trust and relationship building. Her calendar was often filled with showings, client meetings, and property research, a testament to her growing success. What made Monique exceptional in her field was her compassion. She understood that purchasing a home was both an emotional and financial decision for her clients, and she navigated these waters with remarkable sensitivity and professionalism that set her apart from her peers. Motherhood transformed Monique, giving her life new purpose and depth. Her daughters, just 1 and 3 years old when she was taken from them, were the center of her universe. Despite her busy professional schedule, Monique created meaningful rituals with her girls, including bedtime stories, with a special purple pillow that would later inspire a children's book in her memory. Friends often remarked how Monique's face would light up when speaking about her daughter's latest milestones or sharing photos of their adventures together. She balanced career ambition with devoted parenting, determined to create a stable, loving environment while also modeling strength and independence for her girls. Every decision Monique made was filtered through the lens of motherhood, how it would affect her daughter's future, what opportunities it might create for them. She worked tirelessly to build a legacy of love and security, never imagining that her children would instead inherit a legacy of loss and resilience in the face of unimaginable tragedy. Beyond family and career, Monique wove herself into the fabric of her Minneapolis community. Neighbors recall her friendly waves and genuine interest in their lives. She volunteered at local events when her schedule allowed, believing strongly in giving back to the place she called home. Fellow real estate professionals sought her advice and collaboration, recognizing her authentic approach to business and community building. Monique understood that strong communities create safe, thriving spaces for families like hers. She attended neighborhood meetings and supported local businesses, embodying the connection between personal investment and community strength. This community would later rally around her family, demonstrating how deeply her presence had touched those around her. The trap for Monique Ball was meticulously planned, beginning with a phone call from a woman claiming to be interested in viewing a property in Maple Grove. This caller was Elsa Segura, a 32-year-old former Hennepin County probation officer who had crossed the line from enforcing the law to breaking it in the most devastating way. Segura used a prepaid burner phone to contact Monique, ensuring the call couldn't be traced back to her. She created a false identity, presenting herself as a prospective buyer with specific requirements and a tight timeline. The house showing needed to happen on December 31st, New Year's Eve, when most people would be focused on celebration rather than business. This timing was deliberate, reducing the likelihood of witnesses or interruptions. What made Segura's deception particularly effective was her background in the criminal justice system. She understood how to manipulate trust and create a convincing cover story. She knew exactly what information to provide to appear legitimate while withholding details that might raise suspicion. Monique, dedicated to her clients and eager to close the year with a potential sale, had no reason to question the appointment. The location in Maple Grove, a generally safe suburban area, further reinforced the appearance of legitimacy. Monique marked the showing in her calendar, completely unaware that she was scheduling her own abduction. When Monique arrived at the Maple Grove property that afternoon, no prospective buyer was waiting. Instead, Cedric Berry and Barry Davis, two men working under Lyndon Wiggins' direction, had positioned themselves for ambush. As Monique approached the vacant house, they quickly overwhelmed her, binding her wrists with duct tape and forcing her into a waiting U-Haul truck they had rented specifically for this crime. The rental truck served a dual purpose. It provided an anonymous vehicle that couldn't be traced to the perpetrators and offered enclosed space to transport their victim without being seen. Inside the truck, Monique was restrained and likely terrified, unable to call for help or alert anyone to her situation. Her phone was taken, cutting off her connection to safety. The kidnappers drove through the Twin Cities, with Monique captive in the back of the truck. During this journey, they obtained her house keys, either by forcing her to surrender them or by taking them from her possessions. The abduction had been executed with precision, leaving no immediate evidence at the Maple Grove property. No neighbors reported unusual activity. The quiet suburban setting providing perfect cover for the beginning of this horrific crime. Meanwhile, Monique's real estate office waited for a check-in that would never come. While Monique remained captive in the U-Haul, Barry and Davis drove to her Minneapolis home. Using her keys, they gained silent entry to the residence, where John Mitchell Momoa was caring for their two young daughters. The timing, late afternoon on New Year's Eve, meant the family was likely preparing for a quiet evening at home, completely unprepared for the violence about to unfold. The assailants confronted Mitchell Momoa inside his own home, a space that should have been safe. With calculated brutality, they opened fire, shooting him multiple times in front of his children. The girls, just 1 and 3 years old, witnessed the horrific attack on their father, trauma that would forever mark their young lives. Despite sustaining serious injuries, Mitchell Momoa survived the attack, later managing to call for emergency assistance. This assault wasn't random but deliberately targeted. Mitchell Momoa was a music producer who had previously worked with Lyndon Wiggins. Their professional relationship had deteriorated amid accusations that Mitchell Momoa had snitched on Wiggins' drug operations. The attack represented both revenge and intimidation, a message delivered through bullets that Mitchell Momoa would never forget. The children's presence during the shooting demonstrated the complete disregard for innocent lives that characterized every aspect of this crime. As darkness fell on the final evening of 2019, Barry and Davis drove the U-Haul to a secluded alley in North Minneapolis. Monique, still bound with duct tape and likely aware of what had happened to her boyfriend, was forced from the vehicle. The temperature had dropped with the sun, the winter cold adding another layer of cruelty to her final moments. In this isolated location, far from help or witnesses, the assailants executed their final act of violence. They shot Monique 3 times, precision that indicated their intent wasn't just to harm but to kill. The gunshots echoed through the neighborhood at approximately 6:30 in the evening, triggering the city's ShotSpotter technology, which automatically alerts police to gunfire. When officers arrived minutes later, they found Monique gravely wounded in the alley. Despite immediate medical attention and rapid transport to a nearby hospital, her injuries proved fatal. She was pronounced dead, becoming Minneapolis's final homicide victim of 2019. The killers had abandoned her body and fled, leaving behind a crime scene that spoke of calculated brutality. The duct tape still binding her wrists told investigators this wasn't a random act of violence, but the culmination of a planned abduction. As the city prepared to celebrate a new year, Monique's family faced the devastating reality that she would never see 2020. At the center of the conspiracy that claimed Monique Baugh's life stood Lyndon Wiggins, a man whose wounded pride and thirst for revenge set the entire tragedy in motion. Wiggins had a history in the music industry and drug trade, operating in Minneapolis with a reputation for not tolerating perceived disloyalty. His relationship with John Mitchell Momoa, Monique's boyfriend, had once been collaborative. They had worked together on music production and business ventures. The partnership deteriorated when Wiggins became convinced that Mitchell Momoa had informed authorities about his drug operations. This perceived betrayal, being snitched on, represented both a personal affront and a business threat to Wiggins. Rather than confronting Mitchell Momoa directly, he devised an elaborate plan that would inflict maximum suffering. Wiggins' strategy revealed a disturbing calculation. He determined that killing Mitchell Momoa would be too merciful. Instead, he decided to attack what Mitchell Momoa valued most, his family. By targeting Monique, Wiggins sought to leave Mitchell Momoa alive, but devastated, forced to raise their children alone with the knowledge that his past associations had cost their mother her life. This psychological torture represented a level of cruelty that extended far beyond a typical drug-related dispute, revealing Wiggins' capacity for extraordinary malice and his willingness to harm innocent people in his quest for vengeance. Elsa Segura's involvement in Monique's murder represents one of the case's most disturbing elements. As a former Hennepin County probation officer, Segura had sworn to uphold the law and help rehabilitate offenders. Instead, she used her understanding of the criminal justice system to help execute a perfect crime. Segura's relationship with Wiggins apparently meant more to her than her professional ethics or basic human decency. She leveraged her knowledge of how investigations work to create a false identity and use a burner phone, techniques she likely encountered during her career in law enforcement. Her role as the bait was crucial. Without her deception, Monique would never have gone to the Maple Grove property. What makes Segura's betrayal particularly chilling is how she exploited the trust inherently given to women in professional settings. Female clients rarely trigger safety concerns for female real estate agents. Segura weaponized this gender-based trust, creating a scenario where Monique felt professionally comfortable but was walking into mortal danger. Cedric Barry and Barry Davis served as the physical enforcers of Wiggins' revenge plot, carrying out the abduction, assault, and murder with cold efficiency. These men weren't acting on personal grievances against Monique or her boyfriend. They were hired hands executing someone else's vendetta. Their actions demonstrated meticulous planning and a complete disregard for human life. They secured a rental truck to transport their victim, brought duct tape to restrain her, and carried firearms for both the attack on Mitchell Momo and Monique's execution. The precision of their movements suggested experience with criminal activity and a comfort with violence that allowed them to shoot a father in front of his children and execute a bound woman in an alley. What's particularly disturbing about Barry and Davis is their willingness to commit extreme violence against strangers for someone else's cause. They had no direct conflict with Monique, yet they ended her life without apparent hesitation or remorse, revealing the dangerous reality of hired violence in criminal networks. What would you do if you discovered someone close to you was capable of such calculated violence? The perpetrators in this case weren't isolated monsters. They were people with relationships, jobs, and connections to their community. Could you recognize the warning signs if someone in your life was planning something similar? Have you ever considered how disputes in your social circle could escalate beyond the original parties involved? Take a moment to reflect on these questions and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective might help someone identify concerning behavior before it turns deadly. These conversations could literally save lives. Minneapolis investigators faced a complex case that began with two seemingly separate crime scenes: Mitchell Momoha's shooting at the family home and Monique's body discovered in the alley. The connection between these events wasn't immediately obvious until detectives interviewed the wounded Mitchell Momoha, who revealed his relationship with Monique and his history with Lyndon Wiggins. Detectives quickly established a timeline, working backward from the ShotSpotter alert that led them to Monique. They traced her movements on December 31st, discovering the scheduled house showing in Maple Grove. When officers visited this location, they found no signs of struggle. The abduction had been quick and efficient. The breakthrough came when investigators analyzed Monique's phone records, revealing communications with an unknown number that had contacted her only about the house showing. This burner phone became the first thread that, when pulled, would eventually unravel the entire conspiracy, leading investigators from the fake client directly to the network of people responsible. The investigation accelerated when detectives traced the rental history of the U-Haul truck spotted near both crime scenes. Surveillance footage from the rental location captured clear images of Cedric Barry. Additional cameras along the truck's route created a digital trail connecting the Maple Grove property, Monique's home, and the alley where she was killed. Cell phone data proved crucial as investigators mapped the movements of all suspects' phones throughout the day. Despite Segura's use of a burner phone to contact Monique, her personal phone's location data placed her near key locations during the planning stages. Digital forensics also revealed communications between Wiggins and the other suspects in the days leading up to the murder. Physical evidence strengthened the case. Ballistics matched the bullets from both shootings to the same weapons. DNA evidence recovered from the duct tape used to bind Monique connected directly to Barry and Davis. The methodical collection and analysis of this evidence created an overwhelming case that left little room for reasonable doubt about who was involved. Within days of Monique's murder, police arrested Cedric Barry, whose image from the U-Haul rental provided the first solid lead. Barry Davis was apprehended shortly after, followed by Lyndon Wiggins and Elsa Segura. A fifth suspect, Shante Davis, was later arrested for aiding the offenders after the crime. Prosecutors charged the primary four suspects with first-degree premeditated murder, kidnapping, and attempted murder for the attack on Mitchell Momoa. The charges reflected the calculated nature of their actions. This wasn't a crime of passion, but a meticulously planned execution. The Hennepin County Attorney's Office pursued the most serious charges possible, seeking justice for Monique and her family through maximum penalties for each participant in the conspiracy. The trials of those responsible for Monique's murder began in 2020, with prosecutors presenting overwhelming evidence against each defendant. Cedric Berry and Barry Davis were the first to face justice, with separate juries finding both men guilty of first-degree premeditated murder, kidnapping, and attempted murder. Each received life sentences without the possibility of parole, the maximum penalty under Minnesota law. Elsa Segura and Lyndon Wiggins faced their own trials in 2021. Despite defense arguments that Segura merely set up a house, showing without knowledge of the planned violence, jurors convicted her on all counts. Similarly, Wiggins' defense failed to distance him from the conspiracy he orchestrated. Both received life sentences without parole, seemingly bringing closure to the legal chapter of this tragedy. The fifth defendant, Shante Davis, received a lighter sentence after pleading guilty to aiding an offender after the fact, acknowledging her lesser role in helping the others evade capture after the murder. What appeared to be justice served took an unexpected turn in early 2024 when the Minnesota Supreme Court overturned the convictions of both Segura and Wiggins. The court's decision hinged not on questions of their involvement, but on technical legal grounds regarding jury instructions about accomplice liability. The justices ruled that the trial court had improperly instructed jurors on how to evaluate accomplice testimony and evidence. This procedural error, while seemingly minor, violated the defendant's rights to a fair trial under constitutional standards. The Supreme Court determined that jurors needed clearer guidance on distinguishing between direct perpetrators and accomplices. Importantly, the court didn't declare Segura or Wiggins innocent. It simply mandated new trials with proper jury instructions. This legal technicality reopened wounds for Monique's family and highlighted how procedural requirements can sometimes delay justice even when evidence of guilt is substantial. The ruling also created a painful contrast. Barry and Davis remained in prison for life, while their co-conspirators received another chance in court. Following the Supreme Court's decision, prosecutors faced a difficult choice: retry Segura and risk another overturned verdict or negotiate a plea agreement. In 2024, they reached a deal with Segura, who pleaded guilty to kidnapping while the murder charges were dropped. Judge Mark Appelhoff sentenced her to 20 years in prison, significantly less than her original life sentence. The plea agreement acknowledged Segura's role in luring Monique to the fake house, showing, while recognizing the Supreme Court's concerns about proving she knew the full extent of the planned violence. Prosecutors justified the deal as providing certainty of punishment and sparing Monique's family the trauma of another trial, though many questioned whether 20 years adequately reflected the gravity of her participation. The legal reversals devastated Monique's family, particularly her mother Wanda Baugh, who had believed justice was secured with the original life sentences. During Segura's resentencing hearing, Wanda addressed the court with raw emotion. "We were content knowing she would spend the rest of her life in prison, as she should. Today is not a good day for me and my family." The reduced sentence felt like another victimization, a system that seemed to value procedural technicalities over their loved one's life. Family members expressed frustration that Segura, whose deception was crucial to the murder plot, would potentially walk free someday while Monique remained forever gone. Their continued presence at every hearing demonstrated their unwavering commitment to seeking the fullest possible justice for Monique. In the years following Monique's murder, her family has transformed grief into purposeful remembrance. They maintain a memorial site in the alley where she was found, regularly bringing fresh flowers and mementos that celebrate her vibrant spirit. On significant dates, her birthday, the anniversary of her death, Mother's Day, they gather to share stories and ensure newer family members know the aunt and daughter they never met. Wanda Baugh keeps Monique's photos prominently displayed throughout her home, telling visitors, "She is still with us in every room." The family also participates in community events addressing violence against women, wearing custom shirts with Monique's image and the words "Forever 28," a poignant reminder of a life interrupted too soon. Perhaps the most touching tribute to Monique comes through the children's book Ruby and Onyx and the Magical Pillow Adventure, self-published by her family in 2022. Inspired by the purple pillow Monique used during bedtime stories with her daughters, the book features characters based on the girls embarking on magical journeys. The project serves multiple purposes. It provides her daughters with a tangible connection to their mother's storytelling tradition, creates a positive association with her memory beyond the tragedy, and generates proceeds that go into a trust fund for the girls' future education. Each illustration subtly incorporates elements of Monique's favorite colors and symbols, ensuring her presence lives on in the pages her daughters can revisit throughout their lives. Monique's family has become a powerful voice for both legal reform and safety awareness. They regularly meet with prosecutors handling Wiggins' retrial, ensuring the case remains a priority within the justice system. Wanda Baugh has spoken at real estate safety seminars, sharing Monique's story to emphasize the importance of verification protocols for property showings. The family participated in the 2024 Hulu documentary, Me Hereafter, which explored Monique's life beyond her victimhood. Through media appearances and community forums, they advocate for stronger protections for professionals working alone and push for legal reforms that would prevent conviction reversals based on procedural technicalities rather than factual innocence. Their advocacy ensures Monique's legacy extends beyond tragedy to create meaningful change.
This coming New Year's will mark 2 years since my daughter Monique Baugh was kidnapped and murdered.
Wanda Williams Baugh has spent a lot of time in courtrooms over the last 2 years since her daughter Monique was murdered. This time for Elsa Segura, who was convicted of aiding and abetting first-degree murder for calling Monique to set up a phony house showing so that 2 men could kidnap the realtor, torture her, and kill her.
She could have been a hero. She could have warned Monique. She could have warned her that showing was fake.
Wanda noted in her victim impact statement at Segura's sentencing that the defendant, who survived the 35W bridge collapse in her youth and went on to become a probation officer, showed no emotion in her trial. And Segura was among just a few people in the courtroom with a dry eye when Wanda shared this.
Monique's oldest daughter, Legend, said to me a couple weeks ago, she said that she wants to die. And I said, "No, baby, why would you say that?" And she said, "Because I want to see my mommy." And she said, "You can bring me flowers." And I knew she was referring to the times that we bring Monique flowers to her grave.
By law, Judge Peter Cahill had to give Segura a life sentence, just like he gave the 2 men who actually killed Monique. But he added that Segura deserves it.
Because you could have stopped this from happening. And so it is not an injustice.
3 defendants down. Now Monique's mom has 2 more trials yet to go. Elsa Segura's boyfriend, Lyndon Wiggins, is set for trial in May. Police believe he orchestrated the plot to kidnap Monique to try to find her boyfriend, with whom Wiggins was feuding. The 4th defendant set for trial is Shantae Davis, the sister of one of the killers and girlfriend of the other.
Monique's tragedy has transformed safety practices within the real estate industry. Agencies now implement mandatory verification protocols requiring new clients to provide identification and meet at office locations before private showings. Many firms have adopted buddy systems for initial meetings and GPS tracking applications that alert colleagues if an agent doesn't check in after appointments. The Monique protocol has been adopted by several agencies nationwide, requiring agents to photograph client IDs and vehicle information before showings, while establishing code words that signal distress during phone calls with colleagues. Technology solutions now include panic button apps and virtual showing options that reduce physical vulnerability. These measures acknowledge an uncomfortable truth. The openness required for successful real estate work must be balanced with systematic protection against those who would exploit it. For anyone working in fields requiring meetings with strangers, Monique's case highlights crucial warning signs: requests for unusual meeting times or isolated locations, reluctance to provide personal information, and communication exclusively through untraceable methods like prepaid phones. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong about an interaction, it likely is. Practical safety measures include sharing your schedule and location with trusted contacts, establishing regular check-in times, and using verification systems before meeting new contacts. Consider using safety apps that allow quick emergency alerts with location data. Remember that legitimate clients will understand and respect safety protocols. Anyone who pushes against reasonable precautions is sending a red flag that shouldn't be ignored. Your safety must always take priority over potential business opportunities. Monique Baugh's legacy transcends her tragic end. Through her daughters, family advocacy, and industry-wide safety reforms, she continues to protect others. Her story reminds us that behind every headline is a full, vibrant life. A mother, daughter, and professional whose memory inspires meaningful change in how we approach personal safety and professional vulnerability. If this story impacted you, please like this video and share it with anyone whose work involves meeting strangers. Your comments help build our community of safety advocates. Subscribe to Explosive True Crime Stories for more cases that could save lives. Remember, awareness is protection, and sharing these stories creates that awareness.